We're talking a lot about, this lockdowns, and a few minutes ago we were talking about what you're allowed to know. And so it reminded me of the story. I want to pull this up and get your guys' comments on it. It's from SarahCarter.com. Sarah Carter Show. CNN segment discusses removing conservative media and forcing everyone into the, quote, same conceptual reality. In this segment with Brian Stelter on Reliable Sources, a former Facebook, I think it's a Facebook executive, says that they need to basically treat conservatives like they did ISIS and start isolating and removing them. My favorite quote is when this guy says, there are people on YouTube, for example, that have a larger audience than daytime CNN.
Huh.
That's right.
So great.
There's actually a ton of YouTube channels.
It sounds like eliminating the competition. It doesn't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's
What's
what it
funny?
was always about.
I'm pretty sure the overwhelming majority of career YouTube channels get better ratings than CNN. Like, I'm sure, okay, there's a lot of small YouTube channels, but if you have, if you have a couple 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, you're probably doing better than CNN in the key demo, right? Yeah. And if you're a channel with 1 million subs or more, you're definitely. So it's basically every single channel. I'm pretty sure like Kyle Kalinske, Jimmy Dore, and David Pakman are beating CNN, but CNN's not targeting the left channels. They're targeting the right wing channels. CNN staff, I don't want to call the guy a reporter. Resident extremist zealot Oliver Darcy is reaching out to cable providers to get Fox News, OAN, and Newsmax banned from their networks, from the cable subscriptions. You can't even buy it. They want to get it pulled. It's a whole new level of lunacy and censorship because they're not going to stop at Twitter, right? We Project Veritas put out this video clip where we can see they're talking about banning more and more people. They're not going to stop there because their bread and butter is screaming in your face. That's what they do. I love how they used to rag on Fox News, saying Fox News was just scaring old people. Well, I tell you what CNN does.
Scares college kids.
Yeah. When I turn on CNN, the only thing I imagine is Don Lemon going, oh, and Brian Stelter going, ah. Yep. That's the whole thing. And I'm like, just sitting there going like, ah. That's what CNN is. And so what happens when they've already banned everybody, right? So they say they banned 70,000 QAnon-related individuals. They banned Donald Trump. Uh-oh. What's Oliver Darcy going to do? Be out of a job? They already fired Jim Acosta. He's no longer at the White House anymore. He's doing beat reporting now, I guess. So Oliver Darcy says, Fox News, let's get them banned. And they won't stop. They'll keep going. Eventually, some powerful people are going to start losing money, and maybe then they'll wake up and realize what's going on.
I got to say, when we, I guess you could say the U.S. government removed a segment of the Ba'ath Party of Hussein's Iraqi cabinet, and hundreds of, I don't know, even thousands of people were removed from the workforce and not allowed to work, that caused the formation of ISIS. When you remove people from the workforce and won't allow them to enter it, they will form a new organization, and those people in Iraq got violent. So I get that they're trying to go after preventing ISIS, but if they do this and they ban all these people, there's a chance that we're going to create something like ISIS in the United States.
Ian, hold on. From the Washington Times, Trump supporters likened to Nazis and Saddam's Ba'ath Party in cable news demonization duel, Cuomo and Don Lemon. They're talking exactly about this.
They should read history and understand the formation of ISIS.
You know what? It seems to me that this is kind of what they want, though. They want to keep pushing people until they can make them do something radical. So they're essentially radicalizing people. They're pushing them. They're not giving them any remedy to these oppressive measures. And then eventually, like you said, if you remove people, you're going to create this vacuum where something else forms, and usually in that case is something ugly, and you're going to start to radicalize people. But that's call me crazy, but then you get they're domestic terrorists. Well, these angry people here, they're domestic terrorists. Now we need to get them out of here.
That's what ISIS was.
There's another,
we created it, and then we had something to fight.
There's another way to look at it. It's not that the people are being radicalized. It's that Oliver Darcy is radicalized. Okay? So, again, for those that have heard me talk about it on my other channels, Darcy interviewed me several years ago when I said banning the alt-right for their opinions is dangerous. Free speech means even the speech we don't like. This guy working for Business Insider was like, what an interesting thought. I should highlight this for a story. Where am I today? 4 years later. Same exact position. I have not moved. I still believe in free speech, even for speech I don't like. And I'll argue against it, but the only speech...
Let it be spoken.
Where has he gone? Since that 4 years ago when he interviewed me, he's now the cheerleader, most high profile, like the highest profile activist, extremist, trying to get private companies that can do whatever they want to ban access to certain news channels he doesn't like. So it's not that the people in the middle have become extreme. It's that Oliver Darcy shot so far left. From his point of view, there's a bunch of far right extremists, far right from him. And he's too radicalized to realize that he's the one who's been pushed to the extreme.
Yeah, well, exactly. They're taking a hard left, and in doing so, these people that are regular, normal, everyday people who fall moderate right or even moderate left, now in order to defend your position, right? Because in politics we always tend to compromise. In order to defend that position, they have to pull hard to the right, or they're going to lose ground. You know, because if you start compromising with somebody who's going far left and you're still arguing the middle road, you're going to wind up.
That's what's happening.
You're going to wind up there unless you start to
pull back harder.
Yeah, and it's.
But what's happening is that conservatives and moderates, regular Americans, aren't becoming extreme. They're in fact policing the extremes of the right. They are. You look at Steve King. When he made positive comments about white nationalism, they pulled him off all his committees. And then he got primaried by the Republican Party, and he's out. And now, because the Republicans were like, we don't want none of that. And the moderates are like, all right, that's cool. The left doesn't do that. So
they don't.
So as long as conservatives keep trying to be reasonable and play by the rules and the left won't,
you're always going to lose ground.
You're kind of like a leftist that's trying to keep the left from going crazy.
Right.
Well, I would disagree with you, Tim. I think Oliver Darcy is doing God's work. I think all information should be conformed and unified by special interest talking points by the richest people in our society who know what's best for us. And I think it's great that they already on YouTube are promoted in the algorithm. When you search news, you see them first. The next video that usually plays is them, whatever you're watching. I think it's great that they have this unfair market competition since they know what's best for you. And where would we all be if it wasn't for CNN's top article today on CNN Politics about, I'm not kidding you, this is the headline here. CNN released an article saying, this is Joe Biden's inauguration party playlist that you're going to play for your inauguration party.
I did see that.
Yeah.
I didn't listen, though.
Yeah. They're literally releasing the playlist for you to celebrate Joe Biden's inauguration.
Give me a couple of, what were they?
I didn't know we could find it right now.
Oh, I don't know about the one you had from today, but I do have Joe Biden and Kamala Harris drop a playlist for your inauguration watch party.
Yes.
Oh, no.
That's it. Yeah. Where would we be if we didn't have hard-hitting, real news like this that's forced jammed down our throats? Where? As a civilization.
Hold on. Don't you want to be lulled into a calming, ignorant sleep?
Yes, I would have played my music and celebrate the poor old man who doesn't know where he is. Who's represented by all the special
Ignorance
interests.
is bliss. It's bliss.
Yeah.
You know, listen. Let me ask you a question. If there was a meteor or a comet or whatever about to rip through the earth and just wipe it out. No. That's too quick. Let's say it's like a giant. It's an asteroid or meteor about to hit the earth, and when it does, the sky will burst into flames, and you'll have 3 minutes left to live as you watch the fireball coming towards you. Would you rather watch and know it's happening, or would you rather be chilling in your basement, headphones on, playing Skyrim or something?
No, I want a good seat.
Yeah, I want a good seat.
I want to
see it too.
Yeah. I'd go up on the roof and just be like, I'd crack a beer and just be like,
maybe the SD card will survive.
That's kind of how I'm going to watch the inauguration, actually.
Stare into the sunset like it's the end.
Yes.
But I mean, look, a lot of people would prefer to be in the basement, headphones on, playing video games, totally ignorant to the world collapsing around them and just be vaporized instantly. There's a lot of people. Not me. I'm not one of. It's almost like in the Matrix. Which pill do you want? A lot of people would be like, nah, I'm take the blue pill. I don't want anything to do with this.
I can't do the head in the sand thing. It's part of why this COVID and the food supply thing is driving me insane. Because I think that it's a hard cognitive dissonance for people to think that maybe the animal fat that they're eating, the meat and the cheese and the cream, the milk is going to contain that stuff or hyper exacerbate its growth in your system. And dear God, Don't stick your head in the sand. It's right in front of us.
Yeah, well, they want to keep you afraid. They want to keep you in a state where you're at a low vibrational kind of energetic field where you're always panicking, always freaking out. And when you're in that kind of highly emotional state, you're very easily to be manipulated. You're very easily able to be controlled by other people coming in and saying, I have the perfect solution. I'll keep you safe. Look how strong I am. Look how many National Guardsmen I have behind me. I know it's better for you if you just give me everything you have. And that's exactly what's happening right now with this latest move by Joe Biden blocking people from traveling. There's going to be more blocking. There's going to be more lockdowns. And there's going to be more division pushed on by the mainstream media that wants to keep you in this fear state of the average common man. They want you afraid of your neighbor. And another thing that I wanted to address when you guys were talking before about this larger division issue, the Washington Post literally released a piece about multiracial whiteness, trying to explain how people of color voted for and supported Donald Trump.
They used Enrique from the Proud Boys as the photo for that.
They're making up new terms to represent whiteness, which is, again, just in their lexicon right now that they use as a little piñata that they beat the crap out of since they get candy out of because so many few people are afraid to stand up for each other. And they're getting away with this essentially because of our acquiescence and our participation in the fear and hatred of one another.
Listen. What's so insidious about that article is that what they're doing with saying multiracial whiteness is that whiteness represents negative traits of people.
Which has been going on for a long time now.
It's been going on for a long time. Yeah. But what they're doing is they're saying these negative behaviors are inherent to white people and non-white people can have these behaviors too. You see what they're doing? Mm-hmm. They're not saying that people are white. They're saying whiteness is just a word that represents
bad.
Right, exactly. So there you go. Supremacy, white supremacy, all that stupid nonsense, which makes no sense, especially when you see the Boogaloo Boys. There's a video of these people in D.C. I think it's in D.C. I'm not sure. No, maybe it's Richmond. And they're talking to Boogaloo Boys, and they're like, you were with white supremacists. And they're like, no, we're not. We've never been. Like, yeah, you were down there in D.C. during the 6th. And they're like, no, we weren't. They were Boogaloo Boys. They're wearing Hawaiian shirts, and they're like, that's not us.
Which there was, 2 million people in D.C.? Was every single one of those a white supremacist?
Yes.
You know, because I was there, and I saw a lot of multiracial whiteness down there.
Yeah.
And it's...
it's
so absurd that even gets passed. Like who reads that and actually looks at that and says, really, this is hard-hitting journalism.
Dumb people.
I'm afraid like Cori Bush... I got to meet her because I've been reading her Twitter and she's so racist.
She's nuts. It's not about being racist. It's about she's an extremist. She's an extreme. So listen, what is an extremist? Everybody will give you a definition. I'll give you my simple definition. A moderate, a pragmatist, a stoic, rational, a leftist, a right-wing individual are not necessarily extremists. A leftist will say something like, I believe in universal health care and worker control of the means of production to varying degrees. Let's have a conversation about implementing this. A free market capitalist or an ANCAP is not an extremist. They'll say, I believe in the free market. Let's have a conversation about how I move in that direction. What people like Cori Bush say is expel all of the Republicans who dared speak up, in defense of Donald Trump. That's extremism. An extremist says we must have communism by any means necessary. That's extreme. She is very, very extreme.
Yeah, her pinned tweet is expel the Republican members of Congress who incited the white supremacist attempted coup.
That's insane. And so, what's funny is they like to rag on the QAnon members of Congress or whatever. And I'm like, sure. Well, now complain about the extremist, conspiracist Democrats. They're there. There's no white supremacist conspiracy going on. It's not real. But they live in a paranoid, delusional state, and the media props it up.
There's a class conspiracy where very wealthy people want to stay wealthy, and they're okay with leaving poor people poor. There is that does exist.
Well, it's always been about that, but they bring the racism element in to keep the lower socioeconomic statuses fighting amongst each other instead of looking at where the actual problem. Because the only oppression is socioeconomic oppression. In this country, of course you're going to have your outliers, but the majority of people don't experience racism on a daily basis.
Yeah. But if you look at the institutions that cause pain, suffering, poverty, inequality, it's not your neighbor that believes in a different political opinion than you. It's a larger institution that's telling you the problem is your DNA, your melatonin. That's the issue right there.
Melanin,
Yeah, and they convinced people that somehow this is justified, which is absolutely ridiculous. It's insane, and it's driving us down a slippery slope where we are fighting each other instead of realizing the bigger picture right in front of us.
Well, it was conveniently around Occupy Wall Street.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Yeah, we've talked about it quite a bit.
The bankers were packing their bags. They were ready. They were like, the jig is up. They're gonna
Warren Buffett-
audit the Federal Reserve. We're done.
Warren Buffett was giving away a ton of money. I'll do air quotes, ton of money. Mark Zuckerberg donated. I'm doing air quotes, tons of money. And it wasn't because they had a change of heart. Like the Grinch, his heart grew 3 sizes that day. It was because they were like, when the pitchforks come out, it's coming for us. Conveniently, people like Mark Zuckerberg, who were in control of social media, started feeding identity politics to everybody. And then there are people who don't like being insulted based on race, and there are people who like insulting based on race, and boy, did they whip them into a ludicrous frenzy.
There was a little bit of like racist or identity politics at Occupy, and then like the news organizations were like, oh, that's good. Get that. White guy says something about black guy. Run with that one.
Well, they've always done that.
And you don't see
Because
it.
it's because I think it's more a generational thing. I don't think it was necessarily like a rich guy snapped his fingers and said, aha, identity politics is the solution. I think it's that this younger millennial generation have been raised into this cult, probably influenced very heavily by colleges. And now they believe an insane cult-like dogma that doesn't make sense at all.
Dude, in the Middle East
And
war,
they're spreading
man,
around.
they tried to make us afraid of brown people with this stupid Muslim attack in the Middle East. It was all about, let's go after the Muslims.
You mean not like
9/11, the Afghanistan, Iraq, it's the Muslim.
It's
There was this Muslim
always
fear.
a scapegoat. It's always a scapegoat.
Yeah, you can
always
just
scapegoat.
follow that all the way back. You can follow
Yeah.
that to Germany. You can follow that to the Russians.
Whatever, but look,
communists.
even Trump was finding his target, audience and what he was concerned about. Immigration is a problem, and Islamic terror is a problem, and people were scared of these things, and so he used them. My issue is that they say Donald Trump is a what do they say? He was what's the word I'm thinking of? I can't think of the word.
I can think of a lot of words.
Demagogue. He was choosing and singling out these people as the problem. I'm like, so are you, you crazy people.
The hypocrisy of the left never ends. I mean,
Right.
that's their calling card. Is they'll
Double
call
standards.
Yeah, they'll call you out on it, and then they'll do the exact same thing in the next sentence.
I know what the problem is? When Trump would say something like, we're going to have a Muslim ban in this country, and they're like, he admitted it. And then he changed it so that there's actually other countries in the ban. It was a recommendation from the Obama administration. Republicans criticize him. You get criticism from various Republicans being like, I don't agree with Donald Trump. How dare he say these things? And the left, meanwhile, does literally the same thing, and no one calls them out. They don't break ranks.
No, they don't.
The right does all the time.
Dude, people were so afraid of Muslims in 2003
Yes,
and
they
4.
were. Yep.
That's deep in the psychology of the people that are 20 years old. They were born into it like it was normal. Oh, now they're running for Congress and making these weird laws, and there's this reverse racism stuff. Where it's
no.
I
The
was
people who are
oppressed and-
scared of Muslims aren't the left.
I don't know who it is anymore. It was all of us.
The left.
I mean, I wasn't.
No. The left are the people who heard you saying that right now, and were like, I have to stop these Nazi Republicans who hate Muslims. They hear you saying that, and they grow up thinking,
So crazy.
if only I could stop the racists.
We're like the multicultural
With racism.
Right, with worse racism.
Yeah,
That's the best part of it is their solution is always the problem in and of itself.
The house is on fire. Quick, throw fuel into it.
we used to
Burn
talk-
it down completely.
We would sit at Taco Bell as teenagers and talk about reverse racism. We talk about
There's no such thing as reverse.
Yeah,
ra- it
I
doesn't
know
mean
there's
it.
not, and
Right.
but
Just
I
racism,
thought there
period.
was when I was a kid. I was like, okay, affirmative action is allowing
Just racism.
black people to get jobs that they're not qualified for. So that's a form of reverse racism against
Well,
white people.
hold on.
And
hold
we
on.
would get so angry about it.
No. Hold on. That's not affirmative action. I got
In the 90s, was that not what was
Affirmative
going
action
on?
is not that someone who's not qualified is getting a job.
They would give it based on
It's
race
that-
and not qualifications.
They would move down the list of qualified people until they found a certain race.
There's certain quotas that
Oh, yeah,
have to
yeah.
be met.
So yours was a little harsh.
In doing
Okay.
that,
They would bypass
you
more
run,
qualified.
You run open you open up the possibility that you will skip somebody who is more qualified
Yes.
because you have a quota to meet. So it's a side effect of what's a good. I mean, I think that policy comes from a good place, but it's one of those things that it sounds better as an idea and you can't execute it without.
Well, look, the path to hell is paved with good intentions, you know.
Always.
So here's the way it would work. Let's say you have 100 people, and they all take an entrance exam, and the top 10 are mostly white people because the United States is mostly white. They would say, okay, white person. Okay, we're going to skip all these. Where's the first Latino? There we go, 7. He gets the first slot. So now you've skipped 6 qualified individuals. In fact, more qualified because you want to have a race in, a particular race in your system.
I know now that because of slavery, a lot of African Americans were dumped into our economy with zero. And so there was this higher wealth bracket for the people that weren't African American, lighter skin. And so they're more educated because of the economy. I know that now.
But don't forget, the end of slavery wasn't the end of the problems, because there were, like, the South after the Civil War didn't want to be occupied by the North. So they did everything in their power to obstruct the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendments, the right to vote. There absolutely was tons of racist policies all the way up into Jim Crow and the Civil Rights era. Now, that was all the Democrats, mind you, which is kind of funny. And now the same political party that pushed racism is pushing racism again today.
Do you think we'll get past, maybe this is kind of an open question, that we'll get past the racism?
When we stop listening to politicians, I think your average everyday person doesn't give a what color you are. I think that's a pretty broad statement, but I think that applies to most people.
And I think the fairest statement ever said about Trump was that he doesn't care whether you're white, black, Latino, gay, straight. He cares if you can make him money.
To clarify, you said ship, like a vessel on the water, correct?
Yes.
Okay, very good. But it's too much. Race is too much of an effective divider by the elites that's been working for them very well. And as you said, if people stop paying attention to all the people pushing on us and actually being racist, I think then it could finally work. And I think there's a very small window, but it's one of the biggest effective battering rams against the populations from actually realizing that they have a lot more in common than they don't. Could we potentially end on a positive note and talk about what's happening in Tunisia, Holland, and Denmark with all the protests, as well as the bigger movements in Italy and Poland?
The mass riots and mass arrests?
Well, on a positive note, showing that, in Italy and Poland, there's people coming together and saying enough of these lockdowns. We're going to open up in unison where there's too many of us, where you can't shut us all down. I think that's a positive step. And regarding what's happening in Denmark, there's been a lot of protest against the lockdowns that are huge, but yet have not garnered a lot of media attention, which is why I think we should talk about them on a kind of lighter, more positive note, that there is some kind of movement.
You want to talk positive? Yeah. We're gonna have to try hard to find a story from a news outlet. Well, because look, even if we want to be positive on what's going on with COVID, the story we have here from DW from about Tunisia, 600 people arrested. The army has been deployed after violent protests. These people are frustrated over what's going on with the lockdowns. And so they're coming out, and the state's coming out and beating 600 people. That's a massive arrest. In the Netherlands, 142 people got arrested. So sure, I guess there's an optimism, there's a hope. People are starting to say enough of this, standing up and saying it didn't work, it's not working, and we will not suffer any longer. That's good. It gives me hope when I see people standing up for what they believe in.
It is.
But there's a crackdown from the state across the board. And I don't know if we have any reason to believe that they're going to give in to the demands of these angry individuals.
Yes, but we can't give up all hope. And I think when we see these issues, we have to cover them honestly and fairly. So maybe my wording wasn't the best in that particular instant and involved a lot of personal stuff from what I've seen throughout last year and what's unfolding this year. But talking about your story, you're still kicking, you're still pushing forward, and I think you should answer this question more than me, since of course you're still fighting the fight rather than us just kind of calling it and observing it.
I am optimistic, actually. I've been doing this alongside my partner Frank for 8 months now. We opened on May 18th. So pretty much 8 months to the day. And there is a growing sense of rebellion and a growing sense of defiance from everybody. When we first opened up, we had a ton of support, more support than we ever imagined, but it was mainly from the right. It was mainly Trump supporters. It was mainly conservatives, libertarians, constitutionalists. That support, as this has gone on, has intensified with those people, but also broadened. The people, when we first opened, who just really weren't interested in the story or didn't think it was that important at the time, started to get involved. And then as this has continued to draw out, we've gotten a lot of support from people who are typically moderate lefts and even people who identify a little bit, harder to the left. I tell this story a lot. I had a guy come into the gym, bought a T-shirt, and I'm packing it up for him, and I said, "Thank you for your support." And he looked at me and he said, I want to be honest with you." And I said, "Sure." He said, "In the beginning of this, I thought you and Frank were wrong, to say it nicely." He didn't say it so nicely. He said, "I thought you guys were greedy. I thought you were doing it for your own selfish reasons. I thought you were being careless, and you really pissed me off." And he said, "The only reason I followed the story was because you really pissed me off." And he said, "I trash talked you online. Any negative article I could find, I would share it. I would, argue in your comment section." And he said, "I'm here today because I've watched this continue for 5 months now, or whatever it was." And he said, "I support you." He said, "And I'm still a Democrat. He said, I think at the time he said, "I'm still going to vote for Biden." He said, "But what's happening to you is not okay." He said, "And I disagree with it." And that is just continuing to grow and grow and grow to where I think it's scary, because I think we're going to see more of that you're seeing in Tunisia, where people are going to start hitting their capacity for being pushed around. And you can only say, "Please, Mr. Politician, let me open my business. Please, Mr. Politician, let me go back to work. Please, Mr. Politician, I need a stimulus check more than $600. Please, Mr. Politician, don't send $700 billion overseas. We need it here," before people start getting increasingly frustrated. And that's a Pandora's box. You're going to open something where change is going to happen one way or another. And it's probably not going to be a smooth change. You're going to see some bumpy occurrences during that. But I think the people who are frustrated are in the right, and I think that they do have a right to be. And I wish that there was a better way to settle it. I wish everybody would just do what they're doing in Italy, and what we did. We opened. We're open no matter what. No matter what you do to us, we are going to open. Unless we are in jail, we are opening. And as soon as we get out, we're going to open again. That's been our plan from day one. And if everybody does that and doesn't get extreme and doesn't get violent and doesn't get destructive, then we win. And it is that simple, because there aren't enough jail cells, there aren't enough sheriffs, there aren't enough handcuffs, there aren't enough squad cars for everybody. And it's a house of cards. It's an illusion based on fear. It's fear and control. And as soon as everybody turns off the TV, stops listening to the politicians, and says enough is enough, it's over. They can't enforce it.
Yeah. Do you know what started the Arab Spring?
No.
There was a fruit vendor who was being just harassed by cops, told he couldn't sell his fruit. They would confiscate his fruit, and he just wanted to run his little fruit vendor business, but they wouldn't let him. So one day he went in front of a government building and he lit himself on fire. And then the whole country, this is Tunisia, erupted into mass rioting, which swept across North Africa into the Middle East and removed some dictators. Yep. All because because a couple cops would not let some guy just run his business.
I think it's fair to say what we're going through right now is sort of a information war or a larger consensus war. And once you lose hope, you essentially lose. That's why I'm always personally cheering on the underdog, and maybe that's why I'm not unbiased. It is a biased perspective where I come from sometimes, but at least I acknowledge it. And I think more of us should be willing to do that, especially when it comes to kind of calling these larger things that are happening right now, because information is key and it could lead to a lot of amazing, incredible developments. But once you try to censor, once you try to close down this kind of wider highway of speech, that's really when we get into very troubling territories of people using and abusing it against the weakest and the smallest in our society and hurting them tremendously. And that's why when you're doing something that's helping people get healthy, helping people work out, get in a position where their immune system is activated, and then you're the one that's being targeted. You're the one that they're trying to take down. It's just ridiculous. And I know, and then I know they took away your money, but there's also, I don't know if you want to get into this or talk about this. There's also other alternatives with cryptocurrencies. I don't know if you want to personally talk about that or not, and I respect your decision either way.
Yeah, no, that's it. It's this whole thing has been just a game of kind of staying on our feet. You know, it's when you take on City Hall, it's a 12-round fight, and it's the 12-round Rocky story where you're going to get your face bashed in for 11 rounds straight, and all you got to do is stay on your feet long enough to get to the end to where you inspire enough people, and you've made enough of a splash and an impact that it's a domino effect, and you get to the end because all it takes is that, you know, in the Rocky story, it takes that one, you know, bob and weave and that one good punch, and you can take the whole thing down. But it's not falling into the traps that they're going to set for you. And they want that. They want the violence. They want the unrest. They want people to go crazy because then they can say, look at them. Look at them. Look at these crazy people over here. And that's what happened at the Capitol. You know, whether we have all the details or not, that's and they'll use that against you. So you have to stay calm and you have to stay optimistic. You know, so that's been my saving grace all the way through that. And I have a lot of people behind me who reinforce that quite a bit, because it is a frustrating experience when you're dealing with somebody who is actively undermining and ruining your life. The best thing is to just continue to take the high road, and that's been our strategy all the way through. So crypto is just the next thing for us. You know, we've done everything we possibly can, and we will continue to exhaust every single resource without stepping into that trap that they want. You know, so crypto has been a good option for us, and it's going to be the way we move forward in the future to protect ourselves from more oversight. More overreach.
That's an excellent endorsement of why cryptocurrencies are so powerful. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., so come back to check us out when we go live. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and we are also available on all podcast platforms for free if you want to listen to us there. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all next time.